Hello and welcome back to my Astronomy Nights. I'm Derek, and in this video I'm looking at M1, the CRAB Nebula, one of two Messier objects in the constellation of Taurus, that large zodiacal constellation near Orion in the winter night sky. It's very close to the arm of the Milky Way, so it doesn't have a large population of galaxies. Most of the interesting items in Taurus would be stellar in origin, a lot of open clusters and some nebulae. The most famous would be the naked eye clusters of the Hyades and the Pleiades, Messier 45, but then you have the CRAB Nebula just over a degree northwest of Zeta Tauri. This is a supernova remnant that went supernova just about 1,000 years ago. Interestingly, not the largest supernova remnant in Taurus, but I'll get to that later in the video. It's really well placed throughout the winter months. It's well placed from, say, the end of autumn through to early spring, but it's the best time to observe it would be in the middle of winter in December or January, when it's nice and high in the night sky. So let's take a look and see how to pinpoint the CRAB Nebula. So to find it, you can start with Orion and Taurus, those obvious constellations, and you're looking for that V shape in the middle of Taurus, or the face of the bull. And then you want to extend that V out towards the horn tips. So the northern tip would be Elnath or Beta Tauri, and we're looking for the southern horn, which is Zeta Tauri. So when you get that in your finder scope, you want to look just over a degree northwest, and you'll see that tiny little haze of the CRAB Nebula. It's a tiny little grey cloud. You will see it in your finder and in a wide field eyepiece, so it's not too difficult to locate. So the CRAB Nebula is a supernova remnant located in the constellation of Taurus. It sits at about 6,500 light years from us, but it exploded only in 1054, so it's quite a recent object on our night sky. It was first noted by Chinese astronomers that were able to observe it during the day for about 3 weeks, which was in the summer months as well, I think. So it was really fascinating to be able to see something like this on our night sky. It was subsequently then discovered by John Bevis in 1731 as a nebula, and Charles Messier independently observed it in 1758 when he was observing a comet, and added it into his list as Messier 1. Now, to observe it is really nice. It's quite small on the night sky, so it's 6x4 arc minutes, but it's quite bright at magnitude 8, so it's easy to pick up, and the fact that it has that bright star to the southeast of it makes it quite handy to locate. It's a really interesting object with those little dark patches and the filaments running throughout. So it got the nickname of the CRAB Nebula from observations made by William Parsons, who was the 3rd Earl of Ross at Birk Castle in 1844. He was using his 36-inch telescope when he made those sketches, and the filaments along with those bright regions made it reminiscent of a horseshoe crab. I myself, I don't see it. I think when I use my imagination a little bit, it's more reminiscent of a little map of Ireland with those shadings along the west coast. But I think if you have kind of an image in your head, you nearly see it when you're observing these objects. Do let me know what you see when you're observing it, because we're all looking through different instruments and at different orientations. So a supernova remnant is that leftover gas from a supernova explosion. So you have a star that's much larger than our sun, so something in the line of a red giant or red supergiant like Betelgeuse or Aldebaran. And you can imagine those exploding in an instant and creating that really bright stellar object in the night sky, and then over time that gas dissipates out into a nebula like the CRAB Nebula, or then into, say, a larger one like you have the Veil Nebula in Cygnus, which is a much older remnant that has spread out over the sky and gotten fainter and just kind of clumps into those little sections within it. There's only about 100 or so known in our galaxy, and the fact that we can see a few of them in and around these areas is really interesting to be able to track down these objects. It looks like it's a permanent object, but it's increasing by 0.2 arc seconds a year, so it's actually really fast. Like, you can look up little sections of videos where people have been taking photos of it over maybe 10 or 20 years and seeing the expanding gas moving outward. So within Taurus there is another supernova remnant, and it's extremely large. It's known as SIMEIS 147 or Sharpless 2240, and this is a really old, large, faint supernova remnant that just straddles that border between Taurus and Auriga. It's so faint, it was only discovered in the 1950s, And it took a while for them to figure out that it was centered on a pulsar, and it was in fact a really old supernova remnant. The gas had just dissipated out into that large bubble of gas on our night sky, similar to the Veil Nebula in Cygnus, the way it kind of dissipates out and it becomes a few different objects, but it's just much fainter. Any observing reports I came across were using larger aperture than mine, so I don't know if I'll be able to observe it, but I will be giving it a go after this video. I only came across it in researching the video for the CRAB Nebula. That's probably the most fascinating thing about amateur astronomy, is that you can be looking at one object, researching about it, and you can come across something this large in our night sky that you just haven't seen before. So I'll definitely try to observe it, and if I have no luck, I will try to photograph it. If I can get my hydrogen alpha filter onto my camera and a camera lens, I might be able to get a good photo. I don't know if I'll be able to get it before the end of this window on Taurus, but it might be into the end of this year in winter again that I might be set up to try for that one. But it is fantastic. If you look up some images of it, it is a fantastic looking object on the night sky. So to get my image data for the CRAB Nebula, I was using my QHY163 mono camera on my 200 PDS telescope at a focal length of 1000mm, and that was all on top of my NEQ6 mount. I ran my RGB filters on this one, and I was able to get 2 hours of data on each of those and combine them for the final image. I think it came out quite well for just 2 hours on each of my color sets. But it's a kind of object that I think the more time that you can give to it, the more that little filament detail you will bring out. I have a hydrogen alpha filter on the way, so when I do get that, I think I'll pick up some more data throughout January or February and try to compare the two images again. Now, it's a really interesting object to photograph because of all that little detail that sits in around it, and it's nice to compare, say, the image to what you see at the eyepiece. This was the first image that I photographed when I got my NEQ6 mount, and I wasn't using any tracking or anything. It was the first time I had a motorized mount on the sky, and this is the first image that I ever got. This one here, I think only ran a couple of images at it, and it's been a long time editing to see what I could do with it. So it's really nice to be able to come back to it again and compare it to my older images and know that I can improve that one again this year. Observing the CRAB Nebula is really good fun. It's a really nice size, so you can put a good bit of magnification onto it, and it's bright enough that it holds up, so you can add a couple of extra eyepieces in, and you can swap around and do a bit of comparing. It has a bit of a difference in its kind of brightness throughout it. It's not evenly spread, so it's kind of the southern half is a little brighter than the northern half, but it has some nice little elements that you can tease out over time. For observing it, I was using my 24mm Explore Scientific eyepiece, which has an 82° field of view, and I was also using my Nirvana 16mm and 7mm eyepieces with the same field of view. It's got some darker and lighter patches. It's not evenly bright throughout. It's say the southern half is a bit more bright than the northern half, but you can get some of that kind of the shadow detail in it. I know some people see some of the filaments, but I find it very difficult. I think it's just my sky conditions. You need really good sky conditions to see any of the detail in it. Like, I've observed this before and I can't even see the shading in it. So I think it is weather dependent as well. So you should go back to it a couple of times and see if you can tease out some extra detail. So for my observation sessions on the CRAB Nebula, I've observed it a good bit over the years, and mostly I've used my 12-inch Dob or my 8-inch. For this video, over this Christmas, I was using my 12-inch 300mm Skywatcher flextube, and I was using my 24mm 82°. It's not the widest field of view I have, but it has a really nice contrast on it. It's an Explore Scientific eyepiece, and I was using that kind of to place it in the sky and place it in the star field and kind of work around the edges on it and those darker regions. And then once I got used to it, I moved to my 16mm 82° Nirvana. Well, that's a really nice eyepiece for bringing out just a little bit of those kind of the detail to the dark edges on it. You can kind of see the way it kind of tapers in on the eastern edge when you're observing it with, say, when you use a higher magnification eyepiece, you can get a little bit more contrast on those dark areas. When you're using the wide one, you're kind of looking at the brightness of it and that kind of detail, but when you're on this one, it's more of you're trying to get the contrast in the darker areas. Now I did use my 7mm Nirvana a couple of times. I found it was quite dark. Like the CRAB Nebula is bright, but I found it was a little darker than the 16, and my 16mm eyepiece at around 100 magnification give it a really nice view, and it's a really nice target to kind of spend some time on. I wasn't able to get any detail on those little filaments that run throughout. I think it's my sky conditions, because some nights I've observed this and I haven't even been able to notice the difference in brightness or the darker sides, or that kind of the shape to the CRAB Nebula, that kind of claw shape that it has. But so I think if I ever get a chance to observe from say nicer sky region, I would really try and look and see if I could pick out a little bit of those filaments detail. So all in all, the CRAB Nebula is a really interesting object to observe. It's got a really interesting history, and the fact that it's a supernova remnant. There isn't too many of them in the sky, especially at this size, so it's really nice to be able to observe one so easily in the winter. It's well placed and it's got a really good bright star nearby, so it makes it handy to hop back to. I find it is dependent, very dependent on the sky conditions, so if you have the chance you should go back to it a few times and compare your observations, because I have observed it some nights when it just doesn't have any of that detail in it. So do let me know how you get on with your observations of the CRAB Nebula, and until next time, clear skies.